Mobile gaming is at a point in time that if you do have a good phone, you can literally have the same experience on a legitimate PC, albeit only on a smaller screen. That is, however, if the size doesn't really matter. Because here's about 20 of some of the heaviest mobile games of all time for your Android and iOS devices up until this very month. And number 1, starting off here on a good note, something affordable, coming from roughly 3 years ago, we've got over here Battle Prime. Guys, Battle Prime is, as you can see, a battle royale multiplayer, highly realistic third-person shooter. I wouldn't even argue there is a better game in visuals in the list today, let alone shooters. Thankfully, this game's not that big either. It takes you down about 2 GB of space only, it's free, and I've never ever heard of a bug with this one. Hell, this game even supports a controller. Coming up behind that, we've got over here Life After Night Falls, sitting on the Play Store as an online survival action adventure that takes you down, if you're lucky, however, about 8 GB of space. If you're not, though, around 13 GB, just like me. Guys, Life After over here is, I can say, pretty safe to assume, one of the few games out there that won't let you have a life anymore once you get into it. I mean, there is a reason that the game is called Life After. It's got a great story, has farming, shooting, all the survival elements, and it's actually all the way free. And number 3, from a little less than 3 years ago, we've got, finally, I've wanted to talk about this game for so long, something called Exos Heroes. Just about the most enjoyable turn-based RPG on the Play Store, and what in visuals and story delivers like no other game in the list, period. I mean it. Here's a trick, guys. If you have never played this game before, if you like turn-based RPGs, go ahead and play this one and you'll be left with just about the best free-to-play game on the Play Store. However, if you have played this game before and you're coming back, you just might want to consider that the game is a little changed in gameplay and it now takes you down about 3 GB of space. Hell, it's been out there for almost 3 years now and it's getting many updates monthly. As the most downloaded game in today's list at number 4, we have here with over 100 million times, if not even more, Asphalt 8 car racing. Asphalt is a totally free-to-play offline controller support racing sim, definitely one of the most realistic racing games of all time on both platforms, and thankfully taking you down about only 2 GB of space. I'd argue it's the best Asphalt game ever, considering Asphalt 9. 5 out of 5, I would have to say, if it were not just that such a greedy one. Yeah, for real cars in this game, you actually gotta pay with blood. Just moving on. Sitting on the Play Store with almost 50 million downloads. It doesn't really say if you look it up though, it's only about 10 it says. We've got at number 5 Final Fantasy Brave XVIUS. Guys, this may be one of the lesser mentioned games in YouTube recommendations due to the complexity of it. This game is, in my opinion, although probably just about the most addicting Final Fantasy game of all time, but one of the hardest games to just get the hang of. In my opinion, what will actually eventually pay off once you get the hang of it. This game is free to play, pretty complex for newcomers, and besides the fact that it's free, it takes you down about 10 GB of space. So you might want to thread lightly. At number 6, perhaps the most underrated MMORPG of all time, we've got over here since 2019, the one and only Caravan Stories. Guys, this is literally sitting on the Play Store with a 5 out of 5 even to this day. You will not be able to find a 5 out of 5 game on the Play Store after 3 years of its release, but somehow this one actually does. Guys, this game is playable only online. It takes you about 8 to 10 GB of space. There's raid bosses in this game, all the RPG components, dungeons, different races, lots and lots of missions and adventures, you name it.
Let's move.
A quick mention with this one, guys. I'll say this is probably the hardest recommendation here in the list, but still one really worth the mention without a doubt. We've got since a couple of years ago XCOM Collection sitting on the Play Store with only 10,000 downloads. Why the hell? This game's taking you down about $20, and if you're lucky, about 17 gigabytes of space. If not, though, it's going to be somewhere north of 20 gigabytes. This game's playable offline if you like strategy shooters, although this one's playable online and offline. XCOM Collection over here is actually one of the best PC to mobile ports right now.
You are XCOM.
I'm not sure if I have to say this, but I'm just gonna say it. This is easily the #1 game on any list, if I had to include it in any. Guys, we've got over here at number 8, Honkai Impact 3rd. Believe me when I tell you, for a free game, you will not find yourself a better game in story, gameplay, replay value, and characters than this. I mean it. Guys, Honkai Impact as a PC to mobile port has everything you'd want from a story-based action RPG, and somehow it's playable free, however online, and it takes you down about 15 gigabytes of space. That's probably the only downside that this game has.
この拳法はめったに見せないんだからパンケーキシュー三尺の水雲の光
Although a tad downscaled to just mainly run smoother on mobile devices, at number 9 we've got over here Ark Survival Evolved. Maybe not the greatest in gameplay, but sitting on the Play Store with over 10 million downloads since 2018 as one of the most visually advanced and highest in replay value playable offline survival games on the platform. Guys, Ark Survival is, believe it or not, still getting updates and gameplay fixes today. It's playable online, of course, and takes you down about only 2 gigabytes of space. That's literally a miracle. Sitting on the Play Store with almost 50 million times, pretty much getting close to Mortal Kombat X with 100 million downloads, we've got since 2017 Injustice 2. This is an offline/online, highly realistic fighting game. Hell, it supports controller, and so far it's getting every single DLC that they have been coming out with for the PC version. This game is remarkably just like the Mortal Kombat mobile. For those of you new here, it's pretty much that with just DC characters, and it somehow takes you down about only 2 gigabytes of space.
Take the cold.
Tower of Fantasy, on the other hand, is one of the few games that since last year is actually still getting bigger and bigger in scale. If I remember correctly, this game was at the beginning about 8 gigabytes of storage, and now it is up to 12. Not just that, see, Tower of Fantasy does in fact offer the most fresh in visuals and gameplay on the MMORPG genre. This game's been since August last year downloaded over 5 million times and sitting on the Play Store as a free, highly realistic cancer with a 4.5, in some regions even 4.8, in case you missed it. Moving on to number 12, we have, from a tad less than a year ago, the one and only Ghibli-style MMORPG Ni no Kuni Cross Worlds. Frankly, Cross Worlds here only an honorable mention game in visuals, cause if we're talking replay value and gameplay, well, besides all the bugs and crashes and complaints out there for it on the Play Store, this game itself gets repetitive and not really that rewarding. Still, highly praised for its visuals, quite nice in story, and actually free, then takes you down about 10 gigabytes of space. maybe just the most demanding offline shooting game of all time on mobile devices that is, considering it's been out for a decade already. We've got at number 13, of course, Dead Trigger 2. Guys, Dead Trigger 2, no matter what way we're looking at, delivers to an utmost perfection in replay value. Game legitimately pushes your phone's limit, that is if you are willing though, because there's different graphical options in this game, and takes you down about 1 GB of space only. This game supports controllers and it is playable all the way offline. Boy is it engaging. Sitting on the Play Store with over 1 million downloads since roughly 2 years ago. Not as famous as the recently released Tower of Fantasy we just mentioned, but still one of the best in visuals open world MMORPGs of the past few years. And I'd have to say delivering the finest academia game out of any platform. I mean, hell, this is an open world game filled to the brim with academia's universe, characters, and stories. This game is free and takes you down about 8 GB of space.
Found her, Amanda.
Moving on to number 15, we have once again, of course, Alien Isolation. I mentioned this one a dozen times already. This is an all-the-way offline survival horror shooter, perhaps the most stunning atmospheric game in the list, and taking you down about 10 to 12 GB of space. There's another downside for those of you new here. Alien Isolation takes you not only that, but a whopping $15. To be quite frank, you wouldn't really find a more realistic horror game on the Play Store than Alien Isolation here. Quick mention over here. Honestly, this was kind of a hard one to include in the list, but for those of you who missed it about 10 years ago, we've got here once again just a reminder, Nova 3. See, this is a first-person fast-paced shooter and quite a bit in the same style of Halo in gameplay. There is a downside here with this game. It's not available on the Google Play Store anymore. You wanna go ahead and use one of the links down in the description so you can play it offline. Actually, it has a pretty nice campaign and so far it's downloaded over 10 million times as well.
On your feet, soldier.
At number 17, we've got over here Brothers in Arms 3. I don't know why, after almost a decade, this is still an offline free-to-play game for the life of me. But if you do want something to feel literally like you're in the middle of a battlefield amongst the rest of the shooting category on the mobile devices, well, Brothers in Arms 3 has everything you could wish for, if not even more. This game is divine in replay value, graphics, controls, and even takes you down for only 1.4 GB of space. I don't get it.
The enemy you're facing is both smart and powerful. You'll have to adapt and improve to survive. Combat isn't just about charging ahead. Besides sheer assault missions, you'll also be assigned to defense, stealth, and sniping operations. Besides the weapons you're accustomed to, you'll also have access to a range of highly destructive experimental firearms. Get to it, soldier!
That's Rachel Amber. Something happened to her.
At number 18, we have Life is Strange. Quick mention of Life is Strange over here. This game is free to play in the beginning for one chapter. The rest of it will take you down about $9. If you have a PC, guys, I highly recommend giving the original game a shot. However, if you got a beefy phone and you can handle the 10 GB storage, well, this one is an offline controller support game, offers perhaps the most engaging story compared to any other game in the list.
Took me weeks to track him down.
Next up at number 19, one of my own favorite games in the list would be The Wolf Among Us. This is just about the finest PC to mobile port playable with a controller and taking you down about 2 GB of space only. Guys, Wolf Among Us over here is just like the previous game Life is Strange, free in about half a chapter, but the full game takes you down about $7. If you haven't played a Telltale game before, you might have heard that these games are rather golden story and characters, and I'd have to agree once that it's not just that, a lot more.
In the moments when you find yourself losing control, does the anger manifest itself?
Venti, the bard that sits around doing nothing all day?
And last but not least, to just leave this whole nonsense on a good note for all you maniacs, we've got set number 20 Genshin Impact, literally taking you down about 20 gigabytes of space depending on your devices. Mine takes about 17, there's people out there that 12 will actually do for them. Genshin Impact's been, besides that, since 2020, the biggest MMORPG on cell phones. It's at the moment the number 4 most grossing mobile game out there, and it's getting updates once every week. Huge in nature and only playable offline.
Fortune Preserver. One step closer. Maybe soon I shall finally uncover the truth of this world.
I swear by my sword!
With sword comes shadow. Blaze into light!
Verdict is...